Here I am, and here
Yeah.
you are, Facebook Live. Thank you so much for joining me for Simply Felicity. I am so excited to be with my guest today. This is a friend I was able to make several years ago, and be with him on a journey of like kind of making his different dreams and visions come true through a coaching program that I was helping to run. So please welcome with me pastor and attorney and author, Mark Callaway.
Well, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here. I remember the first time we met, which was several years ago in Chicago, and every experience with you was not only delightful but informative. And I felt blessed to be part of that program as a coaching program at that time, which ultimately started my process of ending up here in LA.
Wow, that is so cool. So, and I didn't even know that, I don't think, or I don't remember that that was a part of your dream. How did that become a part of your dream and your journey?
Well, actually, it's I put a lot of it in my book. It's not too
Well,
late.
so
Uh, you can be,
the cover, really nice.
yeah.
Yeah,
I just show you the cover,
thank
uh,
you.
and
Yeah,
it's not too late. You can begin to pursue your dreams at 50,
I
60, and
love
beyond.
the
Now,
simplicity of that title. And I'll be turning 50 in like another year. So I am going to be getting my hands on that book. I'm excited about it.
well, the reason I chose that, I mean, in the book, it makes it clear that you can use the principles at any age. But the concern I had was that a lot of people have had a dream in them for a very long time, in part or in full, and now maybe they're in their 40s, their 50s, maybe 60 or even beyond, and they're wondering, okay, is it just too late for me? Did I put this on hold and now it's buried so far underneath other stuff I could never get out? And what you see of scripture is that Moses began his greatest dream at age 80, and back at that time the average person only lived to 60. So
Wow.
he actually began his dream 20 years after life expectancy was supposed to end. And then you look at many people throughout scripture, and they began later on. And I began to realize, something. When I was in my late 50s, in fact, at the very beginning of the book, I began to explain that my wife and I, we were at a hotel up in Holland, Michigan. We were getting ready to go to dinner, and she looked at me and she said, you know, you've done a lot of things in your life, but you've always taken the safe route. You've never really lived your adventure.
Wow.
And
Okay, anyone, good wife alert. I mean, how
yeah,
like how amazing.
after I dug the salt out of the wound on that one, I began to realize, there's in scripture, John chapter 8 says that you shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free. But sometimes the truth has to slap you in the face, knock you down, and shake you up pretty good to get there. And sometimes the truth even makes you mad before it sets you free.
Absolutely.
And I never got angry, but I began to realize at that moment that she was
Wow.
right. And at that moment, I looked at her, I said, that's it. I was 58. Well, we were both 58 at the time. I said, that's it. We are going to begin the process of moving to LA, because I had dreamed for close to 20 years of moving to LA and starting a church. And several times we'd played with it, but we'd never really done it. And that was the weekend, or actually a weekday. That was the weekday I began that serious thought of dropping everything, leaving the law practice behind, leaving the church I've been at for 20 years behind,
Wow.
and moving out here to LA, and beginning a church in what I've been told is one of the most difficult places on earth, in San Fernando Valley,
Is that what
Encino, Sherman.
you are you into hard cases?
I don't mean to be. But yeah, in fact, my organization had told me, they said we'd never had a successful church start in that area, and I said, well, then they're due. You know,
Exactly.
it's a just because it's never been done doesn't mean it can't be done. And so uh, about a year ago, we just packed everything up, sold what we could sell, and packed everything into a truck and literally moved out here
Oh my
with
God.
no promises. Just moved out here believing God was going to begin to do something special. And
That
he
is
did
so
with COVID.
epic. I'm so excited about this. So,
Yeah,
wow. And I mean,
it's been an exciting thing, and that's when, and I had played with before, talked about writing the book, and then got this book finally written last fall, and or in the fall, and began having what my publisher is one of the writers of the Chicken Soup series.
awesome.
And yeah, Raymond Aaron, and he wrote a forward in there because he's a New York Times bestselling author.
Yeah,
He
I
wrote
saw
two
that
of the
on the cover. I was like, okay, the forward's going to be good too.
and he was so gracious on the cover about how we met, and how he encouraged me to write this book. And it was an incredible journey to write it.
Wow.
Now that I know how to do it, in fact, right now it's on Amazon. My daughter's putting together the whole the website for the book, and putting together
Good.
the sales funnel that goes with that. That
Yeah,
I
this book is
understand.
perfect for that. I mean, this book
Yeah,
goes right into a coaching program. I mean, this is a whole series of emails, and oh my gosh, it's going to be powerful for people.
yeah, I believe that people have a
Yeah.
God-given dream in them, a mission, and the thing of it is, it's never safe. It's never safe. And the easy thing to do is to take the safe route. And I heard Denzel Washington say one day, so many people are going to die with dreams buried with them.
Mm,
And I thought, that is a terrifying thought. I wanted to, there comes a point in your life where you just say, do I live for safety? Do I live for significance?
wow.
I mean, I had law practice. I had a church that loved
Yes.
me. We loved them. We were doing good things there. It was a lot of ways I was respected and everything else, but there was something inside of me that just wouldn't let go.
And what an inspiration now. I mean, there's nothing you could have taught them stronger than what you did, right? In making this huge leap, in not just talking about trusting God, but really trusting God in such a crazy manner, in such an awesome manner. I use crazy with the most affection because I get called it quite a bit. So don't think I'm being insulting.
Oh
But
no, no. Actually,
I just think it's so, so powerful. And the way I have put it before is that I believe that, and you look around the earth, you see deficiencies in the soil, not just the physical, but I'm just talking
sure.
about there are deficiencies in the soil of the earth spiritually. And I believe that our dream is the nutrient that the soil needs. And so, I'll ask the question, what dream has God put in you? What seed has God put in you? And what harvest is the earth expecting? Right? Do not think, ladies and gents watching right now, that you will not answer to God for what you did with the dream in you. It becomes a weighty issue. I mean, I am backed up on scripture on this. You look at the story of the talents, and you look at that person that was safe and buried that talent in the ground. I'm sure this is in the book. Um, I mean, it seems like it would be a perfect fit. But anyway, we will answer to God for what we did with the dream He put in us. And before I throw it back to you, Mark, I just really want to encourage everyone watching right now, please share this video, right? Because maybe you're not 50 or 60 or beyond, but maybe you have people. most of the people on Facebook are women 38 and over. So we need to be encouraging people that it's not too late for their dreams. And this is such a passionate subject for me as well. So, you know, Mark, like, talk to me about what you were thinking as I was talking, and whatever else you want to say.
Well, it's funny when we were debating covers. The first cover that was offered to me was two people on a boat, and I said, "No, no, you don't understand. A dream is where you give out to other people,
Mm,
where God has given you something where you become significant in people's lives, where it becomes your greatest moment of giving. So if you set aside your dream, you're not only taking away the very heart that God gave you and replacing it with something lesser, you're robbing other
amen.
people of what you have to give to them. And and plus becomes an incredibly
Mm. So I'm not sure what's up with Mark's internet. This is like so powerful and exciting. I'm sure that he'll be back. Let me say this. I could say so much about the dream, but the thing is, like he said, it is not just for you. It is not about you. It's not you relaxing on a boat. Our dreams are meant for other people. They are our gift to other people. So he should be back soon. Um, and what I wanted to say about that, you know, in terms of our gift, like, first of all, God's not going to ask us to dream a dream that He's not going to be a part of. Why would God give you a dream that you don't need faith for? He said, without faith, it's impossible to please Him. So our dream is going to need God in order to complete that dream. You can, take that to the bank. It is going to require faith. It is going to seem crazy, and there's not going to be anything safe about it. And that is why God's dream for you is very different than the American dream. In fact, I would say, and I'm going to kind of wait to say this.
I'm
Hey, he's
sorry, I
back.
lost I
That's
lost you for a moment.
that's all
Uh,
right. Listen, I can see your keyboard. Are you able to adjust the camera so that I just get you? Oh, great.
yeah, yeah,
That looks good.
uh,
That looks good.
that's not a
Okay.
problem.
There you go. I have to say, I said I was going to wait to say this till you came back on. I was saying that God would not give you a dream that wouldn't necessitate Him to be involved, because without faith, it's impossible to please God, right? And
Right,
so that's why we can safely say that God's dream for us is different than the American dream, because the American dream is about safety. And it is
right,
about looking good to other people. So please continue on with what you were saying.
right. What we the dream, it's one thing when you hear people they talk about retirement. I hear people in their 20s talking about retirement.
Yeah, right.
And I'm there going, no, life. I have no concept of retirement. Retirement for me is heaven. I have no
Amen.
I have no desire to retire. I have no drive to retire. I have my total plan is to work I had an uncle who took graduate courses when he was above 80.
Oh,
He'd been a minister all his life, and he decided he wanted to get a master's degree. And when he was 82 years old, he began to pursue his master's
my
degree,
hero. I love
because
it.
that is that was that was part of his passion,
I love
his
that.
moment when he was saying, I've got to discover more. He said, because I asked him, I said, Uncle, I said, you're 82. You've been a success. He was a pastor all his life. He was a guy who he would in the Korean War. There he was on a train full of soldiers getting ready to be shipped out to the war. And he looked at my dad. They were both ministers, and he told my dad. He said, "These boys need to hear the gospel before they go into battle." And before my father could say, I'm not sure this is the right forum, there was my uncle with his Bible size that you could choke an elephant, walking up to the front and said, boys, I've got a message that you need to hear.
Wow. Wow.
And
That is
preached them the
awesome.
gospel before before they were sent overseas. We have the incredible opportunity. God gave within each of us a dream. Now, not everything is moving to LA. Not everything is starting a church. But whatever it is, God planted something inside of each one of you and says, this is your life's calling. And maybe you're 20 years old and you're ready to get started. And like I said, the principles are the same. I directed it toward 50 and 60 and beyond, because most people by then think that they're so locked in that they can't get out. And there's a couple of the books that I've seen out and about where they talk about, similar titles, but they're talking about, like one of them says you can begin salsa dancing or something else. Well, I'm talking about making a life change.
Wow. Oh, yeah.
I'm talking about saying, this is what I'm going to do to touch people's lives. And
this is so good. It's because it's the narrative. I don't even think it's just inside of the people. I believe the people know that they can still achieve greatness, but the narrative around us is so strong about retirement is winning. Retirement is the prize. Like, and it's just such a wrong paradigm. And we have a lot of wrong paradigms. I mean, one of them even in the church today is bigger is better. And that's how you would measure the success of a church. When Jesus's ministry got smaller as it went around, like, we are so anti-biblical, but what Jesus said was, teach them to observe all I have commanded you, which means that he's into like depth of us pouring ourselves and what we've been given into people. And that is the measure of success of a ministry. So I'm really excited to hear maybe like a testimony or two of what has happened since you stepped out on faith going out to LA.
Well, of course, we never figured on once we get, we got out here and we're out here for a short time, and all of a sudden
Shut
COVID
down.
hit. And immediately, and in California, I mean, it shut down.
Lock it down.
Mask
it up.
We were masked up, and in fact, they just decided to open. The last couple of days, they just decided to open our restaurants only to outdoor dining, 25%. I mean,
wow.
we've got nothing, and
you're trying to fix the angle. Go ahead.
We're trying to adjust our camera here to where it's functional, and it's not. Let me just turn you around here. That's better. How's that better? All right.
It's real good.
Okay, great. But we've gotten out here. We've gotten to know a number of people. We've engaged in a lot of training out here, because the first thing we had to do was become acclimated to a completely different culture than what we were used to. I've been out to California a lot, and but we were between a complete change of culture, and then with the COVID hitting, we became an online ministry.
Okay.
And I do daily 1 minutes. We do broadcasts on Tuesday night and Saturday morning. We started meeting in a park because they closed every church.
Yeah.
And so we figured, well, they can't close our doors if we don't have walls.
And you can do that in California.
Yeah. In December, we were meeting in a city park, and bringing food, bringing a breakfast, kind of a mini breakfast thing and coffee, and it was yeah. Whereas Chicago, that'd be a little bit more of a challenge through a
You
chunk of the
think?
year.
Holy smokes.
Yeah,
You might have
I
snowmen
keep
for
tracking your
parishioners
weather,
only.
and yes, I will tell you, I kind of missed the snow. There was something eye-opening about walking out the door and it's 5 below 0. You don't need coffee when you're awake. But getting back to what I was talking about, one of the big problems is excuses. Why we can't do it. I dedicated an entire chapter to every excuse that I'd ever heard, I'd come up with myself, I could possibly imagine, and then answer every single one, because generally that's where everything stops. You come up with excuses. Well, I'm too old. I don't have the training. I don't have the background. And I explain in the book that your age is not your detriment. It's your benefit. It's your benefit, because
I
you
mean, it
have,
makes sense that that's why God started with people so late,
yeah,
right? That's another thing, right, that God looks at differently than society does. We just look at the whatever young and pretty or whatever, and God is looking at the age, the wisdom, the experience, and those are the people he chose and called throughout the Bible.
oh, absolutely. And I was fascinated when I was doing some research. I mean, I wrote this book from my own experience, and that's what I find is vital. I didn't write it from a theory. I didn't write it from ideas. I wrote it entirely from my own
Yeah.
experience. And that was, I've read a lot of books where I'm reading, I'm going, you really didn't live this. And it's kind of like, I was reading a book one time it was a book about influence, and they said, and it's important to be a good listener. And they took like 3/4 of a page to talk about how important it was to be a listener. I thought, okay, I know how important it is, but tell me how to do it.
How to do it, right?
And actually, that became a journey of mine to really begin to learn listening, and that
Mm.
was a journey in and of itself.
Yeah.
And I actually have taught listening to people, and coached in how to, and in churches talked about how to, how to develop the skill of listening. But in this, it just became a drive, because I kept thinking, there are so many, and I hear people talk about how they wish they had done certain things. And this COVID time is actually an
Absolutely.
opportunity, because a number of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people have, some people have lost their businesses. And I thought it was interesting. Years ago, I remember reading a study where it said that the worst thing that you can do to a man is take his job away, because that's his identity.
Mm-hmm.
When a man says, I'm a carpenter, I'm a
Yep.
banker, I'm a lawyer, I'm a doctor, that's not what they do. That's who they are.
Right.
And you take that away, and they've lost their identity. But the fact of the matter is, so many people took a job because they felt like they had to,
right.
and while thinking of something else. And
Yeah, if you can lose your job and not lose your drive. And listen, a man's job being his identity is not a God thing. That's what happened. But I think God wanted to shake us loose from those things. So if you lose your job, or if you gain more time, but you don't lose sort of your soul, if you don't lose your drive or your passion or your dream, that's when it's an opportunity. That's when it's exciting, right?
Right.
So
And actually what they found was that the worst thing becomes the best thing, because many times people then went from what they felt they needed to do to begin to pursue what they wanted to do.
Yes.
And it's amazing how many people within a year said, best thing ever happened to me was I lost that job.
Yeah.
Because I stopped doing what I felt like I had to do. And now
and started looking at, like, what can I do?
Right.
Instead of shoulds, looking at possibilities, right?
Right.
And what Mark and I are saying to you is that your possibilities are your responsibilities. It's your
Absolutely.
responsibility. Those things you think you should do, it's not responsible for you to do the shoulds. Shoulds are constructs made by a godless society. Your responsibility is to do what is possible. What is possible. Not, it is. It's a dream. It's what God gave you. It's more real than anything else. But right now it's just possible, right? And so we want to shore up and get excited about those things that are possible, and not those things that you feel are certain. And most of those certain things aren't even really certain anyway. 2020 proved that.
Oh, absolutely. We are living under the false sense of safety and security,
It
which doesn't exist. I mean,
doesn't
I get
outside
on,
of God.
yeah, and I mean, I get on the 405 here, which is the busiest freeway interstate in the world. Every day I know that, something, I don't know if I'm going to get off safely, but I don't even think about it. You know why? Because God is with me. And I've stopped living by safety and started saying, what is possible? I want to go after what is possible. And that's when I've read of other people who are incredibly successful, they live by saying, something, you live by possibilities. You
Awesome.
look, you don't want to get to the end of your life and say, what if? That is a terrifying thought to me. So when I began to write this book, and it was funny because I began to write it, and then my computer tripped out and I lost a big chunk of it. And I was so frustrated, but then I began to realize why, because when I rewrote it, it was better.
Of course. God's like, we could do better. Pull the plug, right? I so
Absolutely.
love
And
it. So I
and
want, I
God
would
says you
go
could do
ahead.
better.
Yeah, yeah,
You
exactly.
could
And
do
you know what?
better. You
He'll do that with your life too. He'll just trash your whole life and say, we could do better. We could do better than this, right? It's like, chuck it all.
absolutely,
Chuck it all. So I
absolutely.
want you to address two excuses. One is um, family support or lack of family and friend support. So when you're Joseph and when you've got your brothers telling you that your dream makes them angry, talk to me about that. I'm sure you
Well,
had to cover that.
absolutely, because there were family members I didn't talk to.
Okay.
The I see one of the problems with Joseph was that he did not recognize when you're the youngest brother. Don't tell your older brothers that they're going to bow down to you one day.
You,
That's not a good move.
you
You know,
know, you think
I
he
mean,
could have figured
now,
that one out, but
but it was God's will
yeah.
in that situation because it got the ball rolling. But you have to understand that nobody has the right to cancel your dream.
Mm,
Your
so
dream
good.
is your dream. I talk about in there how you in the early days of it, you carefully pick who you talk to.
Mm,
Uh, Now, one of the things you have to talk to is your spouse, because your spouse does have a significant
absolutely.
role there. Then if she's not on board, then or he's not on board, then you have to tread not just carefully. You may need to give that a little more time for God to work with them.
Mm-hmm.
But and I can say that hassling them is going to only create a greater barrier.
Absolutely.
But with family and friends, you have to be, first of all, very careful who you talk to, and understand, always listen to them, but go around. I suggest at first is going around to people who have been successful in areas maybe similar to what you're talking about. Begin to talk to them. Get a word from people who have been there. Get a
Good.
word from somebody who has walked the walk ahead of you. So because they will fill your mind with possibilities and pathways.
So that's a
And
good time to bring up the book again. Show the title of the book, show our cover of the book.
right here.
It's Not Too Late by Mark L. Callaway. on Amazon. I point that out at this time because mentors aren't always there with you physically.
Absolutely.
You might have to read about your mentors, and read their life and read their journey. But a book like this could walk with you through the early stages of a dream and help you. So it's not always about just having that physical person that you can go ask questions to. It starts right where you are and your ability to order a book on Amazon. God will bring the rest of the things, people, everything that you're going to need. The how is on God, right? You already know you don't know how. Forget how will keep you stuck as well. That's a whole other excuse, right? Is the how. But just start with where you are with what you have and what you know. And you're watching now, you know what you can do.
Absolutely. Yeah. Part of his inspiration, but a great deal of this book, the vast majority of this book is a pathway.
Mm.
A pathway to start from where you are with nothing more than something in your
Wow.
heart and take it all the way to that massive leap that you take.
It's
But the
awesome.
whole pathway, because you don't start out with a leap. That's really that I heard Steve Harvey talking about how he won a comedy night, and he said, "I found what I want to do," and he quit his job the next day, and he said, "I lived in my car for
Woo!
2 years,"
2
and he
years
said,
is long, y'all.
lost his marriage, and a number of things. And hearing that, I thought a book needs to be written of a pathway, not just simply jump off and try. You've got to set yourself up for
That's
success.
so
Uh,
good, Mark, because yes, that happened to him and worked for him. But when you're able to do something and walk it through, um, the people behind you don't have to live in their car for 2 years. You
right.
can learn something from the people who did that. And with you having a pastor's heart and having to teach every week and that kind of thing, like I just really recommend this book because I know that his heart is to be able to walk with people through things, address every concern, even like the salesman chapter where you're addressing every obstacle. So I want to bring up an additional obstacle that comes in particularly to play when we're talking about older people, and that's health. And you're an awesome person to speak to this because one thing I've been able to see from you through social media and knowing you all these years, you really take care of yourself physically. Now, that's not the case for everyone, but just speak about the importance of health when we're talking about it's not too late to achieve your dreams.
Well, I will tell you, to live any dream, you have to get yourself not only intellectually ready, you have to get yourself physically ready. You have to. There came a point when I was 40. I for the first time in my life, I started gaining weight. I'd been a skinny guy all my life, and all of a sudden, I was down to one suit that fit, and that was stretching the word fit. And I began to realize that I had a
Oh,
choice:
goodness.
either buy some new suits or buy a pair of running shoes. And I chose the shoes, and that was the beginning of a process. Even here during COVID, I've had to. We don't have health clubs out here now, but every 4 to 5 days a week, I do a workout. That is a vital part. Moses, when he God prepared him for his dream by having him walk all over the floor of the Sinai Desert.
Wow.
And this you need to have a daily regimen of nutrition. I begin every morning with warm. I listen to doctors who are interested in good health rather than maintenance,
Mm.
and they change. But the first thing, I begin every morning with warm water and lemon to help the digestion from the night
Mm.
before, and go through carefully eat what I eat. Now, that's not to say I will tell you I'm not a vegan, and don't try to convert me. For those of you who think I'm a meat eater, but I try to be very careful what I consume, because if you can't make it through your day, if exhaustion takes over, that you can't make it
Yeah.
very far, and you're never going to live your dream. Now, dreams are energizing. They are, because it's your passion.
Yes.
You think about it first thing in the morning, and you think about your last thing at night. You wake up at night thinking about it. And I will tell you, when I learned this when I was a teenager, and my parents had a sudden change of life, and they were in their 50s, and suddenly I saw them more alive than I'd ever seen them in my life.
Wow.
Actually, I was a little older, and I was in my early 20s, and I saw them. Suddenly they were living a dream. They were starting a church. They were, yeah, my dad had pastored, but suddenly they were doing something that was somewhat different. And I had never seen them so invigorated emotionally, invigorated physically. A lot of people, I think, are tired and fatigued. They're sick and tired because
They're both.
they're bored. And what I have to say is, are you sick and tired of being sick and tired?
Yeah, right. Yeah, and sick and tired sometimes has a basement. So, sometimes you think you're sick and tired, but you don't really know until you kind of drop a little more where you're like, and that's when a lot of times the change is made. But, there have been some new people joining us. I just want to thank you, Michael, Cleon, Sue, if you're still watching. Thank you so much for joining us. And go ahead and share this. We are not quite done yet, but also, people could watch this after even it's over. So please go ahead and share this. I'm really kind of enthusiastic to get this story out because it's such a huge passion of mine. And so I want to say this about, what Mark was sharing is that two things. The first thing is what you saw happen to your parents reminds me the best parenting advice I ever got was my kids were maybe 8 and 9, and there was a lady at church, really look up to her, and she said, the best thing you could ever do for your teenage children is to live an exciting life.
Absolutely.
And she planted this seed in my mind because, like I said, they were 8 or 9 at that time. And so I was just like, wow, like I need to get on that, right? Like I can do something really good for my children, and have them watch me. And I didn't really even fully understand it, but I didn't like my life. And I just really wanted to be a good mom. And so I made a determination that my life by the time they were teenagers was going to be exciting. And that has literally been one of the best pieces of parenting advice I ever got. And then well, you can comment on that. I won't forget the
I was
other
going to
thing I
say,
want to say.
yeah, one of the life-changing moments for me. I love documentaries, and I was watching a documentary on K2, the most dangerous mountain in the world, the second highest, but the most dangerous. Thousands of people have climbed Everest. Only about 700 have climbed
Wow.
K2. It's so steep. And in fact, they said a number of very experienced climbers get to the base, look at it, and say, forget it, and walk away. But I was watching as a man who was 42 years old, and he was a postman, and he was on the bus getting ready to get to the point to where they walked the last number of miles to the mountain. And they were interviewing him saying, you're a postman, you're 42 years old. What on earth are you doing here? And he said, I have 2 teenage girls, and I want them to know they can live their dream.
Wow.
And I can't do it just by telling them. He said, this has been a dream to climb a mountain like this. He said, I want them to know from Dad's experience.
Oh my gosh.
They can do whatever they want to do.
Good Lord, I got chills. That is so amazing. So, I mean, yes, that is so true. And so my life scripture at this point is Proverbs 29:18. It says, for lack of vision, people perish. And
Absolutely.
I really believe that that is why people are so bored. And I mean, I'm like, yeah, you're boring me, man. I mean, seriously, it doesn't have to be this way, you know? And so I have a couple of ways that I've dug into that scripture. One of them, and that goes into the work that I do as a coach. I say that for a lack of information about vision, people perish. And
Absolutely.
so I teach vision. There's a lot to know about vision. Um, just real quickly, like a friend of mine was able to be there at a gymnastics studio, and this particular coach had um, Olympic and Olympic medal winning students, and those working up to that point. And he said, "What is the difference between these really good gymnasts here, but then the ones that make it to the Olympics?" And she said, "It is the time they spend in vision, which I don't take time to do here. I teach it. I teach that you have to go home and picture yourself doing these routines perfectly. I teach it, but I can tell you who does it. I can tell you who takes the time to do it and who does not. And so that is like, it's such a powerful key is vision, and there's so much to it, and that's why I teach it. But for lack of vision, people perish. People cast off restraint. That's another way to say perish.
Yep.
They don't have it. It will help you with your discipline. You say, I hate exercise. I hate to work out. Listen, you get that vision going, you'll figure that thing out. I mean, all of a sudden, your desire to have your energy back. You could say, I hate healthy food. Yeah, but when you want to live a certain way, all of a sudden that mango, not so bad. And you can change those taste buds, and it's all because of your vision. And so what I encourage people to say is, I have an abundance of vision and I flourish. That's where you want to be. You will flourish in your life when you get those dreams and visions activated. And I want to address this too. My I'm so into vision and everything like that, dreams. And so my mom, she would always get on me. We don't all have big dreams, Felicity, and da da da. So I always like to just address, because see, she is at the age of 72 beginning to get some mojo and fire and passion in life based on her dream and her vision. It doesn't have to be my dream or my vision. It has nothing to do with the bigness to somebody else has nothing to do. She used to play violin. She wants to play violin again. There are other things. She
Absolutely.
wants to be healthy, right? And because there are just some things that she wants to do. Do not get intimidated. I did not think that I was talking about big dreams and big visions. I never said an adjective in front of it. I just
Right.
said vision. It doesn't matter what it is, whatever it. But the thing is, if God gave it to you, it's gonna feel big, and it's gonna make a big impact in your life and those you're called to. So it doesn't matter if it seems big or not to anyone else. You know what I mean? Like it's just yours, and it's between you and God.
If you impact someone, it's
Yeah.
big. Big is what fills your heart.
Mm.
In Psalm 37:4 says, God will, if you delight yourself in the Lord, He will give you the desires of your heart.
That's
The
my
question
other
is, do you even?
one.
And the problem of it is that so few people really have desires
Yes.
anymore. Their dreams have become so pathetically small. They have become, my dream is to go on a vacation this year. Okay, that's a pathetically small dream. You
Yes.
know, your dream is to watch a certain show. Everybody has dreams that most of them we've sold out on, and we've now taken on very small thoughts, when in reality God has put something big. Now it may not seem big to huge numbers of other people. Who cares?
No, that's not the
But
point.
everything starts small. Everything starts small. Everything starts with one person. You know, I
Wow.
I was, and to think about never being too late. In my research, I discovered that there was a man who wrote his first book at age 90.
Wow.
And when I was reading about him, he was 96, and he just completed his fifth book. And
That is
it
so
was one of these,
awesome.
and you're going, something, you know, and I wrote this book in part to say, why why let the kids have all the fun? The 20 and 30-year-olds.
Yeah,
Uh,
when
this
you've got all
this
the
can,
wisdom and
yeah,
all
you
the
got have
experience.
it's the Jesus talked about the heart of a child. Well, the heart of a child is a heart of adventure.
Yeah.
You watch a child, everything's an adventure, whether they're running through a field and finding flowers or looking at beautiful rocks, pretty rocks or whatever, and they're just finding something fun. And
Wow.
that same adventure is still birthed within us. Most people have given it away,
That,
and it's the most vital part of our
you
lives.
know, Mark, this just does my heart so good having this conversation with you in particular, because honestly, I have put some blame or onus on the Church of Jesus Christ for this because we don't talk about desires in the church. And I feel like it's like a yucky word, even though it's right there in Psalm 37:4. And I really, as I took hold, that was my first life scripture, or the first time I ever had one where it just came alive to me like that. And I began to see that desire is a way that God speaks to us. If you look at the different ways that God speaks, desire is one of those ways. God is not, and I heard it from I think it was Jesse Duplantis or something, that we're not even really supposed to be praying about our needs. God said he would supply all our needs. Why would God want to talk to you about your need? As a single mom for a long time, I can promise you there's nothing fun about praying for your phone bill, or there's nothing
Yeah,
fun about
no.
praying about electricity. God doesn't want to talk to you about that. He said, I already supplied it. He wants to talk to you about your dreams and your passions. I assure you, he's interested in talking to you about your desires. And I believe that that is a way that God speaks to us that has really been untapped. So it's very exciting to hear this from a pastor and to know, that that message is being put out in the Church of Jesus Christ. I mean, I think it's so important.
Yeah, that was a change a few years ago. That made a change in my ministry, because until that point I'd been talking about obligation. I've been talking about joy and things like that. But really, joy is not a purpose. Joy is a result.
Yes.
Joy is a result
Wow.
of living God's purpose inside of you. You don't
Wow.
pursue joy. You pursue what God wants you to do, and the
The
joy will
joy will
come. In fact,
come.
the joy has to come because you're living a passion at that point. You're
Yeah.
not living you're not living obligation. We're so good as parents teaching obligation,
Yeah.
not so good at teaching uh,
Yeah.
purpose and
Yeah.
passion
Yeah.
and those things that will and so when I began to really think about this, I began to think, God, because when I started out, actually, God put a passion in me in ministry, and at the same time, I had a huge obstacle because I was a stutterer.
Hmm.
And you think, okay, how many people want to come to a church to hear a 20-minute sermon in 45 minutes? And,
Right.
and so I was there going, I've got this passion, but what do I do? In fact, my high school counselor told me, he said, you're intelligent. You can do a lot of things. He says, here's the problem. Uh, you can do anything you want as long as it doesn't involve public speaking.
Wow.
And I thought, okay. And I kind of listened to him. In fact, I started out in pre-law because of that, because I thought, well, I don't have to address a lot of people, just a few. In fact, there are a lot of law jobs where you don't even go into a courtroom.
Right.
You can sit in an office all day and do whatever
What
it
a
is they
waste
do.
that would have
And I
been
thought,
with
wow.
you.
But the uh, uh, and a friend of mine one day who was a few years older than me, we'd just gotten through playing tennis. We were having a Coke, and he said something's bothering you. And I began to talk to him about this, and he said, okay. He said, somebody put those drives in you, put those desires in you. I'm pretty sure it wasn't Satan, and I'm pretty sure it's not you.
Yeah.
So the only thing left is God.
Yeah.
And he said, if you're going to preach faith, you have to live faith.
Wow.
And
Woo!
and that became, in fact, my daughter, who was working with me a couple of days ago, she's building my website for the book, and saying, "Okay, Dad, what's your next book?" Because I
I
said,
love it.
now that I know how to do it, I can do it a lot faster. This one took a
Yeah.
year, but I can do the next one pretty quickly. And I said, I'm thinking my next one is going to be how to turn your biggest weakness into your greatest strength.
Wow. I love that.
Because
That's
people
so
asked me a
powerful.
few years ago, what marketable skills do you have? I said, I can talk to people. Whether one-on-one or to thousands, I'm absolutely at home talking to people, which is very interesting because at one time, that was my biggest weakness.
Wow.
But I said, outside of that, I'm not sure if I have any other marketable skills. But
Your mouth. That and of course, wouldn't Satan come to attack your mouth right in the beginning with something like that? But it became something you can overcome, and is such a great testimony. So attacks never work out that well for him. But anyway,
yeah. Let's face
know,
it, the easiest time to kill a baby is before it's really born.
yeah, right, right.
And
Yep.
if Satan can kill your dream before you even give it a chance, he will, because he knows that his dream is going to do harm to his kingdom.
Yeah.
So he's going to give you every reason in the world, and going to send people in your life who are going to try to discourage you and try, oh, are you sure this is, this could be, are you sure that you want to do this? And those are the people who you thank them, but they don't get the chance to they don't have the right to cancel your dream.
Cancel culture. We are
Yeah.
not letting people cancel our dream. This has just been so, so powerful. That when you were talking about joy, it reminds me, I believe it's in the book of Psalm, that says weeping endures for a night, but joy comes in the morning. And I love the interpretation of that says joy comes when you wake up. Joy comes when you wake up to your purpose, even in any given moment. If you've lost your joy, even at this moment right now, you can wake up to your purpose for this moment right now. When I ask myself that question, sometimes the answer is, you need to be taking a nap right now, girl. That's, because there are times we're not taking care of, sometimes the answer is a physical, just need to sleep. You just need to go to bed now. You need to eat something. Sometimes it's just as natural as that.
When I've coached
But when you're
people
living a
and
life not in tune with your purpose, you can't wake up to that. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I've coached people who were in depression or really, really down. And generally my first two questions are, tell me about your sleeping and tell me about your eating. And odds are they're either sleeping 2 hours a night or 12.
Yep.
Both are detrimental. And they're either not eating or eating a whole lot. And I would tell them, okay, first thing you've got to get your body regulated enough to where you can begin to handle. Your mind is an amazing thing. God has given you an amazing mind, but if you're overwhelmed physically, there's a connection between the mind and the body that is, that there are not separate categories. And then you find Jesus in the third part where there he is hungry. He's with the woman at the well in Samaria. Nobody else thought that was a dream to reach a Samaritan village. And there's this lady there, and he speaks to her, ministers to her. She goes running back. Now he knows he gets to touch that entire village. The disciples come back with food, and he says, "That's okay, I'm not hungry." And what do you mean? He says, I have food that you don't even know about. Wow. Saying there is a connection between the spirit, the mind, the body, that when you are genuinely engaged in your dream, you can be physically satisfied. You can be energized to the point to where food is vital, but food also is not what you live for. you now becomes something that you can enjoy, not you worry about. And you're saying, hey, right now I am so busy doing what I love. I'll get to that.
Yeah.
I'll be fine with that. But right now I'm not
Wow.
hungry. I got a
Wow.
bigger thing going on inside of me.
This has just been such a joy. I absolutely have enjoyed this conversation. You will come back with your next book. I must have
Absolutely,
you back.
absolutely.
And I
And
mean, just thank you.
I
What else?
tell people that if this book has stirred you, and you know other people who need it, uh, tell them about it. Don't buy them the book
That's
because they need to be invested for
good.
two reasons. One, they need to be invested. If I people people who get stuff for free don't
Yeah,
care about it. One of the reasons is they desperately need to pay the few dollars for that book, and secondly, I need to sell books. So there's two reasons.
Well, see, but if your second reason was more important to you, you would tell them to buy it for them. But you care about people and you love them and you want them to get the fruit out of it. So that is a true pastor's heart. And I love it. It has been an absolute joy and pleasure to have you here. My audience has loved it. I rarely have like the same number of people starting as finish, but they're just people that watched all the way through. And I thank you guys for that. Thank you for sharing the video, all the new people that have come through. And Mark, I look forward to doing this again and
Absolutely.
seeing y'all in California when you open up because I'm awake. Y'all crazy out there. I'm awake. No, but I'm excited to see you. I really am. Thanks again.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been such a joy, as always. Every time I've had time with you is such a joy. My wife and I
I
just love you.
love you guys too. I was gonna say, please tell her I said hello, and I'll see
Absolutely.
y'all soon.
All righty. Bye
Bye.
bye.